wonderful day to everyone out there, and this is welcoming you to another edition of Insightful Moment. My name is Jare Tiamiyu. As we know, we are in the week where we are celebrating International Youth Day, and because of that, we are going to be joining the rest of the world to also mark the day. As we are donating Osun, we are donating across the states of federation and also globally. We'll be looking at the theme for this year's International Youth Day, which has to do with green skills for everyone, and I will be okay. The theme once again is green skills for youth towards a sustainable world. What do we mean by this? And also, what exactly is the fate of young persons in Osun State and also across the country? We are going to be dissecting this, and we'll be discussing this moment with two young individuals who are stakeholders when you talk of youth development in Osun State. We'll be joined by the first person here sitting beside me is Mr. Ajala Adetunji, the chairman of National Youth Council of Nigeria. Comrade Adetunji, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And also to the far side is also a youth stakeholder in Osun State, is the Honorable Representing Osun Central at the Nigerian Youth Parliament. It goes by the name Comrade Babawale Popoola. Comrade Popoola, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Okay, let's take this matter from there. Let me start from the chairman of NYCN. Comrade, when you talk about this theme, green skills for youth, what exactly are we talking about? What does it mean? Why do you think this theme is apt for Nigerian youth at this period?
Well, thank you so much once again for having me on this platform. All right. So when we talk about green green skills for youth towards building a sustainable world, we are talking about the knowledge. We are talking about the values. We are talking about the potentials that the youth have to develop an eco-friendly society that is habitable for everyone. And come to look at it, when you talk about green, you talk about fruitfulness. You talk about something that will not have any negative effects compared to others. So when we talk about green skills, we're talking about a sustainable skills that can build a sustainable society and community where we dwell in. That is the focus and the fulcrum of green skills. And when we are talking about that, we are looking at what can the youth do to help their community develop that will not have adverse effects on the community. So that is what we're talking about here.
Okay, from that, let me pick it. Let me take it to you, Comrade Babawale Popoola. Okay, you are not a comrade now. Okay, Mr. Babawale or Honorable Babawale Popoola. Okay, Honorable Popoola, let's talk about this from this perspective. We know that as we are talking about it now, the world is moving around. Moving towards a green, revolution, a sustainable environment, climate change, and all this. How do you think youth can actually key into this?
Okay, thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon, listeners. It is important to state very clearly without missing word that the International Youth Day, it's a United Nations Day being set up to celebrate young persons that are within the youth age all over the world. And as such, for this year, it is being celebrated every 12th day of August. And right about the theme, for me, it is one of the most suitable and appropriate themes that we're having in a time where we, as young people, we really need to focus more on our skills in development. It is also important to state that the environment that we currently live in, it is so very much more important to our generation as young persons than the older generation. Having said that,
okay, what I was saying is that how do you think youth can key into this theme and then the involvement of the world moving towards a green revolution?
Yeah, of course. So it is very important to state very clearly that as young people, we really need to focus our energy on productive ways of contributing our quota to development of the society. And as such, it is important that we all look at the way of contributing our quota to good climate and ecosystem. And of course, too, we need to start looking at all of the adverse effects of global warming. And importantly, too, it is also important that beyond all of these collar jobs, young persons should, of course, focus more on green skills, innovative skills that will come around to see social empowerment, that would come around to see human capital development, that will come around to see emergence of good entrepreneurial development for us as young persons and for a nation as a whole. And it is also important to state very clearly that when we focus more on green skills, we are very much at the high end of advantage, unlike going into all of these white collar jobs and whatever. So in a nutshell, it is important as young people that while we are also advocating for sustainable environment, it is also important for us to advocate for sustainable human capital development, getting sure that beyond the four walls of the classroom, beyond school certificate, it is also important for every young person in our country today to ensure that we get empowered with an innovative skill and innovative idea to press forward.
Okay, let me take it from there and then let me come back to the chairman of NYCN. You know, when we talk of skills, you know, even the theme of this year has to do with skills.
Yeah.
And at most times, many people will say, yes, we have a very good number of youth, we have a very large population of young people, but most of them are neither employable or they are actually not ready for work. How do you think youth can develop themselves from, you know, whatever you have done in school to having skills that will, you know, stand you out in the labor market or wherever you find yourself?
Thank you very much for that thoughtful questions. And the question I want to pose, I want to do a poser, and I will go straight by asking you that in the around 25 years or 30 years ago, you would believe with me that the use of typewriter is common, still common. Let me say 30 years ago or thereabout. They use typewriter. Why is typewriter not in vogue now? Is it something that needs to think about? Like 30 years before now, the use of artificial intelligence is not in vogue. What has come to change? There is difference between transferable skills from one person to another, and there is what we call soft skills and hard skills. So when we focus on the minor and minor on the major, there tends to be a kind of lacuna and a bridge to fill in. And that is what we see now. So the question we need to ask ourselves is that as a youth, what kind of skills do they equip themselves with? See, enough of speaking grammar without narrowing it down and breaking it to pieces for people to see. When we're talking about skills development, we are talking about something that is transferable and sustainable. Sustainable means that something that is useful at this time without jeopardizing the future. That is what we talk about sustainability. So when we are talking about skills, green skills development for sustainable world, it means that youth of nowadays who are not employable, they have not taken their time and space to get the real skills that will make them employable. So what are we talking about? Now, when you talk about, if you see someone of today who is well versed in data analysis, data science, I can tell you that the work is there. And meanwhile, before now, people are not looking toward that direction. As a matter of fact, why I'm not putting it aside in terms of learning how to plait hair, how to make makeup, why I'm not rubbishing it, but in a larger form, is such a sustainable skills? It's a question for anybody to answer. But I am talking about, for example, you will believe with me, in the world, Russia has to be the largest, one of the largest producers of fertilizer production. I am an expert in terms of organic productions. I have passed through training where I've been trained on that. Do you actually know, Jare, that you can actually, in our own climate, we can produce organic fertilizer that will be useful for ourselves in this country. But however, Are we promoting such a green scale revolution? Do you know how much Nigeria spends to export and to import fertilizer production for farmers? What is happening now? It is that if the government can see a light, in that aspect of, come, we have youths who are interested, who are agricultural students, who are graduates. But if there are no, platform for you to transform the skill which they've learned to something that will benefit the society, then it's just as good as going to school. And that is why many people will graduate without jobs. You get what I'm saying now? So there are lots of things to scale down for the youth of the country. We have, my friend was talking about human capacity, human development. Nigeria have a potential of human capacity development, but we are at the verge of transforming that human capacity development to a sustainable thing that can benefit the society. What is the benefit of the what's it called, projects you did in university that is going to be put into the trash? Tell me, what is the benefit? What is the benefit of research you did while in your university or polytechnics that does not come to the transformation of your environment? Mind you, the essence of education, the essence of university as its name, the essence of university is to help the community. Anything short of that, then, so we have seen what happened in Harvard. We have seen people developing, we have seen many businesses thriving that all started from university. So why the question we need to ask is that why will a graduate from a university not be employable? It does not allow it, because there is no thought process, there is no reorientation process that take place at the entrance of the university for people to understand that this course I am doing, by the grace of God, I graduated from the best university, Federal University of Technology, Akure.
But sorry if I be butting. When you look at all this, some people will ask you, and as the leader of the youth in Osun, the whole one, as they always call you.
Thank you.
What are those things that your organization is putting in place to ensure that young persons have these skills that you are talking about?
Thank you very much. I would like you to give those one or two things that we've done and on assuming to the office. Now we felt that July 15 was World Youth Skills Day, right? And World Youth Skills Day has to also do with trying to celebrate youth who are doing excellently well in one skill or the other. And one thing we did is that, fine, we discovered that there are some soft skills that the youth are lacking, like the communication skills, which are soft skills, like the negotiation skills, and all other skills. We have organized a symposium for as first phase to start with women, because we felt that women are not included more often in terms of development. Even when we want to do some programs, you see that we will not see them. But we first focus on the women, whereby we train them on not only the soft skill alone, because in terms of thriving economically, which is also part of the sustainable development goals, you have to be stable intellectually, even though if we will learn other things. So we have organized a training for them, whereby we train them not only on the soft skill I've mentioned earlier, we also train them on some things that can also earn them source of living.
Like what? Like what are we talking?
Like tie and dye.
Okay.
How to make tie and dye. Like pastries. There are a lot of different pastries and different categories that you can actually do to earn something for yourself. They're like antiseptic productions, which you can actually use something.
Are these things actually fall into, when you were talking the other time, you talk about green skills, like the team also says. And then when you were talking, you talk of the data analysis, you talk of IT, artificial intelligence, and some other areas of ICT. Why are you not looking towards that?
Looking at environment, we call something leads as analysis. You cannot just rush things just once. You must understand the youth that you are leading and your environment. If I am coming to you, you are a professional journalist, and I'm coming to you and I'm introducing artificial intelligence to you, and I'm not telling you about issue framing. when I talk about issue framing as a journalist, you will understand that. But when I just come to you and I talk to you about artificial intelligence, that may scare you away. So ability for you to look at people who need something and considering their location and their environment, because not just that, and that is one of the things that the government needs to do as well. The government needs to look at, do a proper needs assessment, not because a section of youth needs certain thing, then you just introduce it to them. Okay. You must understand at what time does these people need this green ski, at what time does this one need this thing, then you roll it out. So as part of the plan is to introduce the second phase, which is going to be more sophisticated green skills.
I will take you more on that, and also I'm going to take you up on a Popoola. I'm going to take you up on issues that have to do with the national agenda. You've been at that Nigerian Youth Parliament for about 2 years now, if not more than that. And we should be able to know what are those things that you are doing there. Just assembly of 3 youths from 36 states sitting in Abuja once in a while and then just getting allowances or what? I'm going to take you on that. And finally, we are going to talk about what programs are these organizations of yours actually putting forward to celebrate the 2023 International Youth Day. We'll do all those ones when we come back from this very short break. Stay tuned, I'll be right back.
Quality healthcare is essential, but in many instances, costly. Are you thinking of enjoying standard healthcare in a sure state without being unnecessarily overstressed or overstretched financially? Ocean Health Insurance Scheme is for you. To register, log on to www.oshia.com.
You are welcome back from that very short break. My discussion today has been on International Youth Day and what are those things that young persons must be doing to ensure that they have the green skills that is the world theme for this year's celebration. And I have been joined here today by 2 young persons who are stakeholders when you talk about the youth sector in Osun State, the chairman of NYCN, Comrade Ajala Adetunji, and the Honorable representing Osun Central at the Nigerian Youth Parliament, Honorable Babawale Popoola. Thank you so much for joining me today. And then let me now go back to Honorable Popoola. I was discussing the other time, you've been at the Nigerian Youth Parliament for 2 years now. And then people are asking that, what are those things that, when you were going, if I could still remember your manifestos here and there, when you were talking to us, what you want to be doing. And, 2 years down the line, seems that you have not been able to achieve most of those things, or maybe you have achieved them and I'm not aware. Please tell us, what are those things that the NYSC has contributed to the national development, especially to the young persons in this country?
Oh, thank you very much. It is very much important to state very clearly without missing word that the Nigerian Youth Parliament is an affiliate of the World Youth Parliament. Okay. And as such, in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it is being constituted by the Act of the Parliament. It is entrenched in both the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 as amended, and of course in the National Youth Policy document. Having said that, it is also important to state very clearly that the NYP is a legislative institution that is being set up to mainstream young persons, specifically youth, into the governance and legislative process of our country. And as parliamentarians, we sit and deliberate on issues of national importance. And with that, you would agree with me that our focus is on policy advocacy and, of course, the legislative process. While we came on board almost 2 years back, it's not up to 2 years because we got inaugurated on December 5th, 2021. And the first step that I took for myself to represent my constituency is because you cannot claim to represent some persons who you do not have the feeling of their need and what they require of you. So that it will not be more or less like all of these typical politicians that would definitely be providing a public toilet as constituency project in an environment that is in dear need of water. To be more or less like complicating the issue. And we came around together to come up to constitute a youth town hall meeting where we were able to have a need assessment, and it is very much important to also note that Insight Media played a major role in publicity of that event. Having said that, we come around to gather all of these things and made me to come up with feasible and clear agendas for advocacy at the Parliament. One is inclusion of young people in governance process. Two is the creation of more enabling environment for employability. And the third is, of course, advocacy in all ramifications for development of young persons. And as members of the Nigerian Youth Parliament, it is also important to state that practically, let's be blunt, the policy of our country is not favorable to an ordinary young person in our country. And one of the practicality is we are all aware that there is an issue of ageism. That is criticism based on age in employment opportunity. And one of those important motions that we've been able to move and achieve at the floor of the Nigerian Parliament is to ensure that we abolish age restrictions in employment opportunity. Say, for instance, you will hear the fact that a graduate of not more than 25 years of age with 10 years post-graduate experience. How do you want a young person to get that? So it is more or less like we are trying to put them at the advantage end. So like Yoruba people would say that afuni ni oko afiaje mafiayu tofuni ni oko di opero. And while we look at that, we see that this is not important. And it is, of course, the motion was being passed, and now we have achieved that to a reasonable extent with so many other things. But it is also important to state clearly in relation with the green skills that while we keep on advocating at the floor of the Nigerian Youth Parliament and also keep on lobbying people at the floor of the National Assembly to help us put on youth-friendly policies and legislative process at the National Assembly, we should also state very clearly that according to the theme of this year's International Youth Day, green skills is one of those things that when a young person is empowered with, you can be sure that you wouldn't have issues as regards employment opportunity. And I will give you a practical example. We have so many young persons that are graduates and they are on the streets out there, unfortunately, that they do not have jobs. But it's also important to state that we have young persons that are doing well with their green skills. I will give a practical example. Number one, we have Adetunji Ajala and Member. She's an Ibadan-based young person that converts waste to useful images. She picks on the streets nylons, waste bottles to convert them to bags, to convert them to clothes and series of things. In fact, she was being recognized by the immediate Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is Professor Tiamiyu. And practically in Osun State that we have now, we have series of young persons that are doing well. The number one person I'm going to mention is Busari Adetunji. She currently runs a clothing brand, a locally clothing brand that is tagged Idea Premium Textile. She deals with Jare, and I can tell you without missing word that she's one of the most notable suppliers of Jare as far as Nigeria is concerned. The second person I'm going to mention for you is a guy, a young man. His name is Ahmed Raji. He runs a cassava processing unit that processes gari and manufacture. And today, I can tell you without missing word that Amraj imports his gari even outside the country.
You mean exports?
Exports the country. So we would see that with this, if young person can focus more on green skills and of course add a bit of 21st century packaging and IT, we can be sure that we're getting there.
Okay, we can be sure that we are getting there. But let me come back to you, the chairman. You know, in your press conference on Tuesday, when you were heralding the celebration of the International Youth Day, you called on the state government to look into two things. One of them is Emmanuel Youth Calls. And some people are now asking, you know, the one that former governor Adetunji started, which was partially continued by the former governor Adetunji Ajala. It was something that, you know, people who just say graduates or even NC holders or even SSC, whatever you call them, are sweeping roads, these things are not jobs that are sustainable. And then you cannot think that they are going to develop anything from this. They are not, being given tasks that is commensurate to the level of their intelligence, level of their education and all this. How are you, what I'm going to is that, is the organization ensuring that you are influencing some policies of the government, so that it's not going to be like, okay, when they bring in the Mali Youth Corps, it's going to be like, they just send them to the road again, be sweeping, be saying, hey, stop there. Those things. How are you working towards, ensuring that those things do not happen? Are you working with the state government on that?
All right, thank you very much for that questions. And it is important for us to look at, government is continual. And there are a lot of things to learn from the previous governments,
yes, so
that the incoming government can also improve further on it for better governance to the people in the community and the society. So, but what came to my mind, of course, there are different aspersions for people sweeping. No, that is not sustainable work. But I want to ask, what came to my mind is that, in as much I'm not justifying that, and I'm also throwing the part that is not sustainable. Sweeping on the street is not sustainable. But what question I want to ask you is that, why will a Nigerian youth leave Nigeria to abroad to go and sweep?
Okay.
And be earning good pay?
Okay, do you think that that kind of pay can actually be achieved in this country?
I don't want us to try.
Okay, let me just amend the question a little bit. Are you saying that when this youth corp is implemented,
okay,
are you looking towards the salary scales? The last one, I think they collected 12,000 naira during the Oyetola's administration. It was 10,000 naira during Adegbesola's administration. 10,000 naira, 12,000 naira. I'm very sure that it may not be up to what you use for data every month. I'm just saying. So how do you think you are working towards that, so that they are not going to be given peanuts, and then they will be, wasting precious times on the road?
Now you have structured it.
Yes, I'm just adding it.
I intentionally want to puncture some things you mentioned before.
Okay.
Because sometimes somebody can be sweeping floor and collecting, let me say, 200,000 naira in a month. Okay. It's a very good deal for you. Start.
But intellectually, is the person developing? Let's look at it from that perspective.
It now depends on. I'm going somewhere before you interject.
Okay, you can go.
Now, I'm trying to paint a narrative about other country. You have a time to do your work, right? Which means that you still have other time to do other things, right? That is more valuable to your life. So if peradventure, and I know many youth have the opportunity to do a job that cannot take more than 1 hour or 2 hours in a day, that they still have very good number of their time to do other things. And the job they are doing for 2 hours, 3 hours is giving them nice results. Which means that some of the money you see from that part can be transferred into another useful things they are doing. In as much I'm not justifying, it is just reasoning. I want us to look at it, but to look at this for this government, they should learn. That's where I get from. They should learn from what people have said concerning the past administration years and find a way of improving it.
I think you want to hire.
Yes, yeah. It is important to note that one of the finest schemes that we have in the Nigerian federal system for young people today that it's been underutilized is the Empower scheme. And I'm going to strongly recommend for Osho State government, if truly they are looking at focusing on the youth corps, because with the current templates that we have, while it is seen to be eradicating the unemployment problem, it is also initiating and instigating underemployment. We need to holistically look at it. You cannot just have, say for example, 20,000 young people sweeping. I am of the opinion that the scheme should also be streamlined like the Empower scheme, whereby we have NTech, whereby we have NMed, NAgric, so that we can have different aspects and different ramifications, that we can be sure that you would go to skills that are a bit convenient to you based on the area of expertise and be able to maximize your capacity. And it is also important to state very clearly that to have a scheme that would pay young people 10,000 naira monthly basis, it is ridiculous for young people. And as a voice for young people, personally, we are going to advocate against such because we know the amount of money being put to other schemes. And as such, any employment for young people should be commensurate to the minimum wage, at least, if not more. If the government are truly serious,
the minimum wage is about to be reviewed.
So, if we review that,
I know that part, but there is something we are not addressing. Yes.
Please, in just less than 30 seconds, because I have final questions for both of you.
What in as much that it's good for us to look at end power templates, but there are also some lacuna. My own concern is that the environment is dirty. What kind of approach do you think the government can put in other than people sweeping the floor? What is expected of citizens to do? Because sometimes we just put everything to government.
Yes, and that is why organizations like yours must go beyond talking and talking. Yes, you must be pragmatic.
Beyond what the government is doing. It is also important to state that we need to maximize all of these lists. We have a ministry that is in charge of empowerment and environment and sanitation. I'm of the opinion that the state government will holistically look into converting the waste product to an advantage of the states.
That's what are the things that the Youth Council are putting forward to
celebrate this year's International Youth Day.
Let me say this, that because we are so magnanimous as a council, and we know that there are other different youth groups, we don't want to bombard the week with so much activities, so that we can also attend all other events that is being taken by other organizations. So one thing, we've started with press conference, and from press conference we are moving to planting of trees in schools and some public spaces as part of our own contributions to the environment sustainability. And meanwhile, the grand finale, where I will be exposing and talking about the theme indeed of the Youth Day, which is going to be all organizations within the youth body in the states are going to be having a talk and a session that is being coordinated by the Ministry of Youth and Sport. That is the grand finale, which is going to be happening on Saturday. Meanwhile, as our culture is that when we come to the International Youth Day week, we always go to churches to thank God, and always go to mosque also to pray and thank God for the peace that we are enjoying in the States and for our youth that are doing wonderfully well. So these are the things that we are put in place aside other media engagement that they have booked us for. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any programs that you have actually put in pipeline for this year's celebration?
Yes, of course. As being supervised by the Federal Ministry of Youth, the Nigerian Youth Parliament is also commemorating the International Youth Day with a summit that we are looking forward to address all of the issues around youth development, youth employment, and of course youth inclusion in governance, so to say. And of course too, we will also be commemorating same in Osun State, right here in Osogbo.
Okay. That was a very fantastic discussion with my guest today, Honorable Babawale Popoola of Nigerian Youth Parliament, and Comrade Ajala Adetunji of the Nigerian Youth, of the National Youth Congress, National Youth Council, yes, National Youth Council of Nigeria. Okay, I think I get it right. And that's the chairman of the Osun State chapter of NYCN. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being part of today's show. And I believe that as young persons are doing well, we will also continue to beam our lessons on what is happening in your organizations and then in the youth sector in Osun State. Thank you so much, and that was our show for today. Thank you for being part of it. My name is Jare. Tiamiyu. Bye for now.